Only 48 degrees out here this morning. Gonna have some nice cool weather this coming week here in Florida. I know back when I was a kid, we used to come down from the Pittsburgh area and visited my relatives in Ocala. Actually went to school there for a few months when I was like in 4th grade. My father always talked about buying property down there and us moving to Florida, but it never actually happened. But we used to get up sometimes, we'd stay out. My uncle, his mom, his family, I guess, had this little trailer out on this lake. We used to go stay there all the time, go fishing and swimming and stuff. But man, there were times we were down here, you get up in the morning, look out, there's ice floating on the water, you know. A lot of people don't realize it can get cold here in Florida, depending where you're at. Just north of Orlando usually seems to be kind of like the dividing line. You know, up around Ocala, sometimes they might be a good 10, 15 degrees cooler than we are around Orlando, you know. But what I wanted to make a little video about, just a quick thing. There's some comments on a video I did a couple days ago, you know, about passports and processing times and so forth. And for a while, I know processing times were really, really long. You know, heard a lot of horror stories about things. Well, obviously, especially coming out of the pandemic and all that, you know, we were doing some of my wife's, you know, citizenship and other stuff, you know, back in that time. And there were a lot of long wait times for things. But my wife, when she was, you know, planning to go back to the Philippines in end of October and all of that, back this past spring, like March, April or so, we decided I wanted to go ahead and get her flight booked early so she could have a better chance of picking the seat she wanted and all of that. You know, get her a nice, you know, comfort plus seat and stuff like that, where she'd have plenty of leg room for those long international flights and stuff, you know. It's one thing, it's easier to travel when you're a short Filipina than it is when you're an American. You know, you can get a lot more leg room in the same seat. But we started pretty early with things. Everybody was telling her that you need to make an appointment somewhere. And I, you know, me being a letter carrier, people are always asking me too, you know, does this post office, you know, do passports and things like that. Back when I was working a lot as an acting supervisor, you know, I used to fill in as the closing supervisor for a little while up in Winter Springs. And the person who was our acting postmaster or manager at the time, she actually was a notary, and she would take care of stuff like that. You could make appointments there at that office for passports, and she would actually notarize the forms and stuff for you. We take the pictures there. So there are different post offices where they do some of that stuff. I don't keep up on it anymore, you know, since I'm just out carrying mail and all of that. And for me personally, you know, my passport's been expired for a year or two, I guess. But the only way I can even do mine, since it hasn't been expired yet for more than 5 years, is to do it, is to, you know, mail it in. And my wife, though, I told her about this one courthouse in Winter Park. For those of you who are here locally in the area, over in Winter Park, 32792 zip code. It's on the corner of Lakemont and Aloma Avenues. There's a little shopping plaza there. Got a Bank of America, Jersey Mike's, Sprouts, stuff like that in there. Back in around the corner behind Bank of America, facing toward Lakemont, there's a courthouse back there, which a lot of people don't realize. And they do walk-ins for passports. You know, everybody told my wife, "Are you sure?" I've never heard of that. I guess that's a new concept for a lot of people. But yeah, you can find places where they do that. And we went in there. I looked it up on their website. As long as you were there by a certain time, I forget exactly what it was, in the afternoon, they wanted you to show up at least by a certain time to make sure you could have time to get everything done that day. So we made sure we got there. She had all the stuff she needed. You have to have 2 separate checks or whatever. Actually, I think the court, you can pay them their fees in cash or credit card, but you have to have a check for a certain amount to send in with your form to the passport agency. And, oh, nice big hawk there. So we went and did that, and she had her passport in less than 3 weeks, you know? I mean, I was surprised it was that quick, but it was a quick process, and everybody was so surprised. There's a guy, I don't know if he's manager or one of the owners, this one 7-Eleven out on my route, and he was asking me about the same kind of stuff, and you know, I told him, wasn't really sure about all that stuff, but I told him about that courthouse, and they had already done it through a post office or went somewhere, and they paid extra too for quick handling, because his son was going back to another country and had to have it for a trip. But we didn't even pay for fast processing. I've been fighting this cold. And yeah, less than 3 weeks we had the passport. So anybody that lives around here in Florida, you might want to check on that, especially if you're around the Orlando area. There are courthouses where you can go and do that stuff. You look it up in like Orange County website or something. And now I'm losing my voice from talking this long. I should go back inside, get out of the cold, I guess. My wife was still asleep. I didn't want to disturb her. Man, there's this giant red-tailed hawk or something up on the roof of our building here. Have to make sure our kitty cats know that. But yeah, you'll hear a lot of stories, like the one comment on my one video talking about how long it takes. And that's what I heard too. I was really worrying. We made sure to go plenty early to do her passport because we didn't know how long it was going to take. And we had it in less than 3 weeks. So you might want to check into that option. And now, get back to my day of watching football. Got my Steelers sweatshirt on, even though they disappointed me in the snow game against Cleveland. We got some more conference games coming up. Hopefully we can beat Cincinnati today. So that's my big day. Watching football, trying to heal up so I can go back to work for the next 6 days.